Arkhan here, going over a few of the non-electronic components for this partial sink tube build. 1¼ inch sink tube, came in from Custom Saber Shop, and then the chrome was spun sand off of it. It really won't matter because this will be leather wrapped. You can see there's a custom copper bezel cut to match the contours of the pipe and JB welded on. The JB weld will be cleaned up more. That's to raise the anti-vandal switch up. You can see on the inside there's a matching copper bezel that matches the contour on the inside, also JB welded, so that the nut of the switch has a flat surface to screw to. Sometimes you see people screw those nuts in and they just screw to the inside of the tube, especially on sink tube that's not really very sturdy. But I got to clean that up, and then I'll have to cut the sink tube to length for the bottom part of the hilt. This is the end cap. It's brass. It needs polished up a little bit more and sealed. A little tarnish. This is actually a end cap or end plug from a PEX pipe fitting. It is brass. The rear section is the motor housing for the spindle motor of a hard drive. This hole was originally enlarged to take a switch. However, I changed my mind, and it and the drilled holes will be speaker outlets now that I've gone to the soundboard. Originally, the interior diameter of this piece was designed to take 1-inch copper. In this case, when I switched to a soundboard, I had to go and mill this out a bit with the Dremel tool so that it would take the 1.25 inch. 4 10 by 32 screw holes threaded. The choke, which is very similar to the kind you might see from modular hilt systems. This is actually brass. This is a coupler for PEX pipe. One end is not opened up, and it has shims inside of it to take the emitter. The other end is opened up to take the 1.25 inch. Again, you have, in this case, 8 10 by 32 threaded screw holes. The emitter is made from, I think 12 or 13 pieces of copper, brass, and aluminum, all epoxied together. The central smallest diameter runs the entire length. It has holes drilled for the blade to glow through. This sleeve is epoxied around it with shims inside. That mates up with the very snugly, I might add, with the choke. Then we have the copper. I'll be putting a blade screw up in this area. This aluminum ring, brass fitting, and then this aluminum ring and cinder are pieces from my hard drive. It will take a 3/4 inch blade. It's slightly over diameter, so I will be snugging up that 3/4 inch blade when I install it. I have to seal this piece up to prevent any oxidation, but you can see it took about an hour spinning in the drill press with up to 1200 grit sandpaper and then Brasso to achieve that kind of polish. I think for a hardware part, it looks well, it looks great. And then I have 2 matching shrouds that will go on opposite ends and opposite sides of the hilt itself. Basically, as you see here, the hilt will be leather wrapped with black leather. My dad builds saddles and things, so we have access to that. It has ears, 3 of the 4 screw holes on each end. with the cap and with the choke, the screws will go through the shroud and then into the choke and into the tube interior. These are based on a design of my own. It has my initials, a reversed R in the front and a K on the back side. This is made out of 1¼ inch sink pipe that was sanded down to brass, polished up to 1200 and brassoed, and then the black piece is also brass, cut from the same piece, dremeled out, cleaned up with the Dremel, hand filed, sanded, painted, and glued. And those two, surprisingly, even though they're off the same template, there's always just a little bit of difference in the two of them, and I think that gives them some uniqueness. The CoverTech wheel, which is not here, will go on the back down here, opposite the shroud, and then the shroud in the front is on the bottom so that it's opposite the switch. 3/4 inch show blade with Corbin film, also has poly wrapping paper on the inside. I need to do a little bit more of that, and I need to hit it with sandpaper, 600 and 1000, get a little bit more even out of the LED. The blade fits very deep. It actually fits all the way through the emitter section and down into the choke, where it matches up with the LED on the other side, similar to the way MHS blade holders have a lip inside. This blade will be between 4 and 5 inches deep, and it will be fully supported on the inside so that it won't be putting any undue pressure out here on the ends where this is epoxied on. I don't want to bust that stuff loose, so the support for that blade will be in this area here, about where the front screw is. As far as assembly goes, I really just need to cut the tube to length, drill holes. They won't be thick enough to tap. Hopefully I get away without having to fix some kinds of secured nuts on the inside, because that will not be helpful when I try to put speakers and other parts down inside of it. And I think that's about all I have to say for this hardware saber made with belt sanders, grinding wheels, Dremel tools, no mill, no lathe, and a lot of sandpaper and beer.